questions?
No, I was just wondering qué estará pasando aquí with, with this guy blowing up everything. Something's gonna go wrong here.
Well, from what I heard on the news is the whole world is behind it.
Well,
Except for Iran and the Soviet Union.
well, let me tell you,
Mhm.
when they tell you they're behind you, you better watch in front of you.
And even China.
Pues ya ves.
China.
¿Tú crees?
It was in agreement with them. This is just, the world has always wanted the United States to be the policeman of the world.
Well,
It hasn't been.
The United States always been there,
Yes,
you know that.
and it's a God-given,
Mhm.
I'll
But
just
it's
say
saying
the
it's not
truth,
a
it's
bill.
God-given.
In God we trust, right?
But nothing will happen from that. I know for a fact,
Yeah.
I can tell you prophetically, we're fine.
Yes, I have a feeling,
Yeah.
and most of the time, cuando
Well,
pasa eso,
he's president, if he does it in a way that it kills.
well, we're not worried about him,
Yeah.
we're worried about the other ones.
Well, the thing is, God will only allow so much on this earth
Yeah,
for the evil man to do evil things. He
yeah.
really does. He doesn't allow too much. That's why, the Germans lost World War I and World War II. And the North Koreans were beat back, but, because of their evilness, but man gets involved and, said, no, leave him alone. And because North Korea had China's support.
That's it.
But not anymore. Not like they did. We may have a world war, but it's going to be a while. And, there's always been wars, rumors of wars, as it was in the time of Christ, so in our time. And these past 8 years, our president didn't do really much of anything. In the previous one, Bush did something, and Clinton did something, and Reagan, and all these did other things. But the past 8 years, we haven't done nothing. So, prophetically speaking, we should be all right. I don't think we'll have to worry about those Chinese or the Koreans or even, I think God will use, this nation to calm down the Islam for a while, because we were supposed to be doing it and we weren't doing it. Because they're killing Christians, if you want to use that. They are killing anybody who doesn't believe other than what they believe. Even if you don't believe in God or the Christian God, they will kill you because you have to believe in their Allah. Well, God only allows that to go so far. That's why they haven't won the war yet. They've killed their own people, yeah. ISIS, you know how they grew? They grew there and with their own people there in Iraq and those different nations that are of the same faith. But whenever they rise up against a Christian nation, they can't go past their borders. So even with this bomb dropping, I don't see anywhere prophetically in the Bible where there'll be another, atomic bomb being dropped. That was just to stop that faith, because the Japanese war was a religious war. You know that, right? Japan was fighting us, and it was a religious war because their God was the emperor. He was a living God, and they worshipped him, and whatever he said went. And they would have fought, they are the same. They were in the same place as Islam is, because they had, suicide bombers. They stick them in those tubes and little submarines with torpedoes, and they go in and they kill themselves in the name of their God, the emperor. And they also flow in the kamikaze. I'm just giving you what I can see.
Oh, yeah.
And you had the kamikazes, that flew in and they would use their own bodies to kill and And in the islands, they fought to the death, they didn't care.
They must have a lot of faith, like.
They are.
Because even todos esos que they bomb,
Mhm.
they kill themselves.
Mhm.
That's a lot of faith.
If they want truth, they will come out of it. I know that. They won't stay there, but they're brainwashed from a child. We are all computers. Our brains are only what we, put in them. And if you're told from a child, and they were showing on the internet where they were raising, 7-year-old kids and telling them, strapping on bomb vests on them, and these are the Muslims, Islam, and that they're going to go and they're dying and they're going to heaven.
But you see, just the same way that they indoctrinate their children, we've got to be careful, because I was telling my husband, Christianity, it's on the decline. We're raising our kids without a God, without any, and that's what the Islam, that's what they want. It's easier to come in and dominate that way. We're already having, I don't know if you keep up with what's happening, but look at Dearborn, Michigan. Okay, they've already taken over that city.
Yes.
They're taking over in Arizona. And we're weak because the U.S. has lost a lot of Christians. We're raising children without God at all. And what happens with the Muslims is after they become, I think it's above 2%, they start, pushing their beliefs. And you're seeing it. Yeah, you're seeing it.
Yes, but right now in the United States, they do have the federal law that will not permit those.
Yeah, and then you have those.
Have you seen that commercial that came out today?
Today, no.
It's this atheist
Mhm.
is advertising que he's not scared to go to hell, and
Yeah.
he doesn't believe in God, and que hay so many people que they don't believe in God, and they're
Well,
supporting him.
Yeah. The atheists, they don't believe in God. They don't even believe in eternal life.
Yeah.
Their existence is now, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so for them, you can throw hell at them; they'll just laugh.
And they show some numbers where the money's coming in to support him,
Oh yeah. There's
I said, what
anybody.
in the world is that?
I know it's because, like she said, the people have forgotten God. We've taken God out of the schools. We've taken God out of government. We've taken God out of everything. And if He hadn't been voted in, we would be. They would have taken God out of this and made us marry the abominations. They would have made us.
That guy's a congressman.
Yeah. But at this point in time, like Dearborn, Michigan, we have Utah that aren't Christians. Utah, a whole state, they aren't Christians. They even advertise in Mormon in their commercials, we're going to give you a free King James Version Bible. Just send it this way, and we'll send you another Testament of Christ, the Book of Memorial.
That's here too.
Yeah,
There's
you know,
huge compound here in Texas.
They're all over the place.
Yeah, FLDS, they've got big compounds.
Yeah, and that's why when
And
I.
the scary thing is that they push it as, it's God's doing.
Yes.
And then the thing is that, since we have a lot of kids being raised not even knowing God, they're falling for all that stuff. You see it on TV, sister wives. I mean, come on, what's that?
Yeah. Well, that's just carnality of man. And remember, there's supposed to be a decline. There is supposed to be a decline in the knowledge of God. And only those who desire the truth will it be brought to them. And there may be just a few left over that are going to be living like true Christians. That's what we're teaching here. We need to live like true Christians. The rest of the world may live like the devil and call upon the name of the Lord, but it'll be like Jesus said, in that day they will come to me and say, Lord, Lord, did we not heal the sick in your name? Cast out devils. I mean, that takes an authority from God to do that. It's not just, it's an authority from God. But He said, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. That's why you can have a pastor over here or a pastor over there, and they're almost as bad as the Catholic priests. You know, they violate people too. And they have that false doctrine that, well, you know, you just ask God forgiveness, everything's fine. Well, no, it's right here with God. That's why we don't believe in that last confession, you know, that, you know, you have to the last minute to confess and be saved. No, we need to get it now. Start it now. Because God has to see that you mean it in your heart. And how does God know you mean it in your heart for Him? By your life actions. How you live. Not because the last 3 minutes, you know, your heart's going to stop. You say, okay, Lord, I accept you as my Lord and Savior, and, you know, I want to go to heaven, and you are. You think God's going to honor that? No, He's not.
I know someone said that the Bible, somewhere in the Bible it says that there's not an infinite number of people that will be allowed into heaven, but that somewhere in there it says that hell, the number is actually the people that will be going to hell, which we know is not,
Yeah.
that it's actually an increasing number.
Well, if you, yeah, I don't know where they get their number from, but if your name is not written in the book of life, you know, you will be cast in the lake of fire, which is the second death. And hell is in existence. It's just, there may be what you're going through in this life, but also the grave is hell. Yeah. Don't worry about burning up forever. You know, just, you know, we want to gain eternal life. We want to have that eternal life that God has to offer us. Remember, Jesus, when He was on this earth, what did He preach? The resurrection. The resurrection. And when He spoke of hell, one place He called it Gehenna. We translated it hell because Gehenna, it was a trash heap at the end of there in Jerusalem or wherever town He was in, and they would throw all the dead bodies in there, and they would have a fire going to consume, you know, all that trash. It says hell, but if you go in there and pull it up, it says Gehenna. And even if He drops this bomb, they're bombing everybody. I mean, you look up the Jerusalem, I watch ILT Network, and it has to do with English news from Jerusalem. And every day somebody's getting stabbed. Or they're set, look at, they set off the bombs in where was it, the Coptic churches over there celebrating in Egypt. They killed the Christians with bombs.
The only reason the second one couldn't do it is because he couldn't go past the metal detectors.
Now, this might be something here, Julio, with them dropping the bomb and showing the force, it might calm them down for a while. We might have a semblance of peace for a while.
They said, though, that these bombs were not dropped on people, they were dropped
No,
on the
no,
tunnels.
on the caves,
Yeah.
on the caves where ISIS was at. It wasn't a destructive one, not like Hiroshima or Nagasaki. But it was dropped on a military, and God's for that. God, He is the Lord of the armies, and no army can do what they're doing unless God allows it. Even the bombing, we don't like it, but they do it. They're, you know, and like I said, they're in Israel. They're constantly shooting rockets over there against their well, not their military, but their civilians.
Yeah.
Daily. They
Did you
throw
see
rockets.
the other one in Kim allá celebrando?
Yeah, well, see, that's why, like they said, they sent out the ships to show him. Because if he gets an atomic bomb,
He's got 91 of them.
okay, if he gets one and he uses it, would our bomb make a difference? It wouldn't push them over. He said he's going to do it anyways, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, to say that our bomb make them bomb, no. He's already told us, I'm going to bomb you with an atomic bomb.
He's
And
got-
that's why China's backing off. This is the way I'm gathering all the information. Hopefully I got it right, but there is propaganda out there in the news, okay? We cannot believe everything in the news.
Oh, no.
What they tell us, but there is propaganda out there where the news people like to exaggerate to catch you to watch their channel. But he's been threatening the atomic bomb whether we build up force there or not. I see it similarly, as in when John F. Kennedy put the ship line for the Russians when they're trying to bring their ICBMs over here way back in the 60s or 70s.
Cuba.
In Cuba.
Yeah.
He had to show a force. He almost had to, start a war, but it would have
The
kept
thing
them
is,
from coming this way.
like you say, he almost, I think this one will. You know.
I
This
believe
one's not gonna
if he
hesitate.
does, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And it'll be gone. But it will only be for peace for a while. It will bring peace for a while. And that's all it will be is for a while. There will be a major war. There will be a big war coming up. And so long as we're doing those things there as it says in Revelations, was it chapter 11?
There was another thing there.
Mhm.
Some people, what do you call it? Gay people,
Mhm.
they bought their own island and stuff,
Yeah.
and now they're moving over there to the island.
Yeah, well, they're around. And they still statistically,
They took over an island.
yeah, but by the count in the United States, by count, numbered count, there's still only 3%.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there's a whole lot more because they're pushing their agenda. And we cannot accept it. As Christians, I'm sorry. You cannot accept it. If you do, you endanger your soul. Now, I'm not throwing rocks.
They can't get married in Texas.
Right now, thank God, but it's gonna
Well,
change.
they-
No, but it's gonna change. In 5 years, we're gonna have that, and then those bombs will come. Then those bombs will come. Actually, God would have had to use it, but no, it's let me see here. Oh, it's not 11. Maybe it's chapter 7. Yeah, okay, yeah, it is chapter 7 of Revelations. It is chapter 7 of Revelations. It says there, in verse 1, it says, "And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor any tree." Okay, now does God have something against this earth? No, he doesn't. And he said after the flood, he would never, destroy this earth as we know it for the sin of man. But here it's mentioning earth, and it's mentioning sea, and the angel ascending out of the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given. See, these are messengers of God, whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. He says, and see, as you can tell, these winds are not just the wind. They're judgments of God. And it says, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. See, that is the church's responsibility today, is to be putting the name of our Father in their foreheads. Seal. It says seal, but it means we need the mind of God in their head. Like Sister was saying, they don't believe in God anymore. If they don't believe in God anymore, that means there is nothing in there of God. But like when you read your Bible, you're putting God in your forehead. You're sealing Him, because then you start thinking like Him. But all these children that are being raised without God, without teaching them God does exist, what you do, God is watching, and He will judge you for it. And you don't just tell them, oh, don't worry, live your life, have a good time, and everything will be okay. Live however you want to live your life, whether you want to be, live with someone of the same or of a different, of the opposite, sex. No, see, that is why when you come to church, we're putting the name of our Father in your forehead. And not the name of Elias or Brother Bates or any other minister shows up. It's Jesus, our Father. It says, now those 4 winds. Those 4 winds are judgment. I hope I remember them. It's the civil government, religion, finance, the finance or the economy, and then military. Those are the 4 judgments that will come against people of this earth that forget God. You know, the government will rise up and then you'll have a dictatorship, you know. And religion will take over just like the Muslims. That wind is working very strong over there in Arab, in Egypt. And if you don't believe like them, that wind will kill you. That's why they have a great diminishing of Christians. You know? And then, of course, there's the economy. God uses the economy, you know, finance, money, to judge, you know, nations. That's what happened to Russia. If you study their history, they were the USSR. And they were living off credit, just like the United States of America. And they finally ran out of money. They said, we can't, you know, Russia is just the size of Texas. You know, you hear all about Russia, and colluding with Trump, and they've already proved it doesn't, but they're still bringing it up. Russia is the size of Texas. Why should we be afraid of them?
Because you know que they were, before they tenían a Poland, tenían
Well, exactly, but they're not there anymore.
Right.
They're not that size.
Ronald Reagan los
now,
hizo.
yeah, well, it was their economy.
Sí, pues sí.
They ran out of money.
Embargos puso Ronald Reagan contra
Yeah.
Russia.
Yeah, well, it was just us.
And it took years y deshizo el país.
Well, it was the whole world.
Pues sí.
It was not just the United States. The whole world was against them. But
They
they
left
ran
away.
out of, their economy was everybody gets a house.
Yeah.
Everybody gets food. Everybody gets free health care. And you know what? No Christians. But there was Catholics.
Yeah.
The 70% of the USSR were communists. 70% of the USSR were Catholics. You know, I remember Peter Popoff would say, let us put Bibles and they tie him, send him money so he can get Bibles and put them on a balloon and let them fly into Russia. It was there. Bible was there.
The only religion there is Catholic.
Yeah, the Eastern Orthodox.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't stop you from doing much either.
Mm.
But the true Christian religion will stop you or teach you to stay away from sin, to go away from that. You know, but that's an example of how religion, you know, is enforced. I mean, who was on Hitler's side religious-wise? Rome was.
Si somos católicos, ¿qué estamos haciendo mal? Y que por ustedes no leen la Biblia, es todo lo que hacen mal.
Oh,
Ustedes pudieran cuidado la Biblia lo que dice, comenzando con los 10 mandamientos de Éxodo 20. Ahí les dice que no hay dioses y creen en la Virgen, creen en Santo Judas, creen en todo. Ustedes no creen en el Señor Jesucristo, tienen que creer en Él.
Now it's his fault because he asked you.
Y era Mussolini.
Yeah, Mussolini was also of that faith,
Yeah.
the Roman faith. And so those religion, like Muslims, you know, they will, God will use them to judge, and that the whole people there are being judged by religion. Economy, Russia. We call Russia, and if I recall it, when I was still in school, in high school, they were USSR, the United Soviet States.
Eso era porque era
of
Poland
Russia.
y Australia.
But it was huge.
Yeah, it was
huge.
big.
It was the size of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But economy brought them down. You say embargoes by the United States, and not just us, the whole world. But they had money. They had food. They, you know, like I said, they gave everything. Their government gave you everything, and they even gave you stipends for vodka. You know who invented the game of Russian roulette? The Russians. That's how much value they had on life. They killed themselves. They'd play those games at weddings, and someone was going to die. But that's the value. But that was one of the wins. When they forget God and no names of God is being put in their foreheads, they're not being sealed, as it says here in the scripture, that judgment will come. So economy has destroyed us. Economy will be used on us here if we stop putting the name of our Father in the foreheads of the people. As soon as we stop doing that, and I mean, there's tons of churches everywhere, but are they really putting the name of God in their foreheads, or are they just saying, come worship with us, be part of us, let's worship God, but, you know, they go out and live like the devil. You know. So, the bombing he did is, right now, it's irrelevant. You know, it's not gonna cause the World War III yet. And like I said, Russia is just this big, it does have atomic bombs. It does.
Yeah, it's just like today I was listening to this guy on the Christian radio. ¿Verdad? He was preaching bien todo, ven al Señor, ven acá, ven allá. And then at the end of the sermon dice, manda tu dinero aquí, aquí.
Oh yeah.
You know, I say, what? You know, I mean.
Jimmy Swaggart is having their national camp meeting, and they'll stop it for a commercial.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you, we need money.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, I think I seen them, because I like their music, and they stopped and says, well, we appreciate all your donations, but we're 1,200,000 short. So we need y'all to send in more money.
Hey.
I mean, and they sold over, I don't know how many millions of their Bibles for like $25 to $50 a piece. What are they doing with all that?
Y the thing is que he was preaching so good que me sentía yo bien, ¿me entiendes?
Mhm.
Y luego después dice eso, you know, he kept on and on and
Yeah.
on.
And then they push it. And I know I love to hear them speak. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't. He started talking about the angels that fell from heaven. You know, it's not even, it's a made up story. It does not have nothing to do with what the Bible says. And the pre-Adamic age, you know, and there was a war in heaven with God. No, it never happened. They made up that story. You can't find it in the Bible. I can. Yeah, buy the truth and sell it now.
I didn't mind que donating ni nada de eso.
Yeah.
The thing is que the way they salieron bien bonito, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they read out of the Bible,
Yeah.
y luego salieron con, you know, y luego salen con esto,
Yes.
you know.
Then right away, you need to send us money, we need to have your money, and all this other stuff. Is like, hey. And any brother that goes on the TV and says, and send your tithes, you tithe at the church you go to. You don't send your tithes to someone on the TV.
Thing is que estaba en la Christian station,
Yes, yes.
you know.
Yes.
How did they get there?
Well, the world is blind to the things of God. And even, you know, remember, they're going to come to him and say, you know, did not we heal the sick in your name? Did we not cast out devils in thy name? And Jesus said, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. And be cast into outer darkness, where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's not good. And what I'm teaching here is what the Bible says. And we can make up a lot of things and make it sound good, but it has to be backed up by the Bible. Every experience we have, spiritual experience with God, has to line up with the Bible. If you have an spiritual experience that does not line up with the Bible, it's a false experience. And that comes on under the mystery of iniquity, where it says if you have not a love for the truth, so you have to have a love for the truth, God will send you a strong delusion to believe a lie. So I will tell you this much, we have at least 5 more years. 5 more years of peace. No matter if they're bombing over there. Remember, they bombed Iraq and Iran, all those bombs. They changed those countries. It don't mean they can't change it again. They can still do it. Right now, you know, so long as there's Christians, not all of them, but as long as there's some Christians that are preaching truth in the United States, we will have this peace. But as soon as people stop practicing what the Bible says, and we start living our life like the world, then God will not hold back those 4 winds, and they will come.
Okay, what were the winds again? Military, army?
So he will use the military, which is, he's the Lord of the, es Dios de los ejércitos, or el Señor de los ejércitos. He's Lord of the armies. Economy is one of the wins, you know, a failing economy. And then there's the religion, and then the civil government. And civil governments can take over to the degree that it's, you know, we see it in where dictators take over a country, you know, and they destroy. In Africa, there are some nations that are run by warlords. They're not run by a true government.
Well, isn't that why they're fighting right now? Because Assad took over that
Yeah.
Syrian government?
Yes, it is, and he is supposedly fighting ISIS as well, but he's killing his own people. He's not killing all the ISISes. He's bombing hospitals. Right? He's bombing hospitals. So you know, when I heard about this bomb, I go,
Well, supposedly ISIS,
that was one of their compounds in the mountains.
they're like putting them where there's families and children, and that
They use them
they're
as a
using the
shield.
people as
Human
shields.
shields. But this was a military compound in the mountains that it was used by ISIS in
See, in Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And it was just there on the border to the other country that we're, at this point in time, friends with. You know, and it all comes down to the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You've heard that, right?
Mhm.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And if you watch politics, that's the way it is. And if you watch world struggle, that's the way it is. But God will use these four elements on this earth, you know, to judge us. And so long as we're here, this church is one of the churches, I mean, I'm not bragging, but we're one of the churches that is teaching people to live like Christ.
So, esas naciones que no creen en Dios ya están muertos, como dice la
They
palabra
are
de Dios.
juzgados sin.
Ya están muertos.
But so long as there's life in there, people come out of there to Christianity. They may be judged. That's how come in India. I mean, you hear about the tsunamis, you know, earthquakes and all these things. Thousands and 10,000 die and all this other. You know, why? Oh my goodness, they worship all sorts of gods. God can't protect them. He's going to let them live their life. That's His grace. And some get saved. There's Christian churches out there that are making an effort to make a outreach to them. And there's some Indians that are coming out of that.
You know, cuando Katrina le pegó a New Orleans, maybe weeks before,
Yeah.
nosotros andamos ahí working, and I would see the people, I mean, andando en la calle sin ropa, and they were chanting and dancing and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I say, one of these days, good Lord va a mandar algo y
Yes.
He's going to watch everything
Yes.
away in church.
He only allows so
happened.
much. And yes,
Yeah.
it's just like you may want to go to Las Vegas, but be careful when God judges it. Watch out.
Yeah.
You may make it one day and be able to enjoy because I hear there's good restaurants and stuff and all, but be careful with the place of sin. You need to don't be there when God judges it.
You know, I never been there, pero.
Oh yeah, and you know, New Orleans I know was getting
Well,
worse.
New
and
Orleans,
worse and
New
worse
Orleans,
and
I
worse.
was there because I was working on the water pumps.
Yeah. On those dice.
Y we went to eat y andaba la gente ahí walking around naked in the middle of Main
Oh, it
Street.
got bad, and it slowed them down. It slowed them down. That's
Yeah.
all. That's all it did. And
And I
God
said,
uses
what is
those.
wrong with these people? And there was little kids walking on the sidewalk.
Let me tell you something about history. That legion or the military people, since we're in this time of
Mm-hmm.
you know the resurrection and the crucifixion, the one that was in charge of Jerusalem and killed Christ. Y'all remember Pompey?
Pompey.
That whole group of military men were on R&R in Pompeii when they had that great explosion. Research. You know, they crucified Christ. It wasn't there by their fault because, you know, the Jewish people pushed them to kill the Christ. But for what they did, you know, they paid. And they were all on R&R in Pompeii. That whole legion or whatever they were called, I forget what you call them, army groups now, what they call troops. Troops.
Garrisons.
They were in Pompeii. I just watched the movie Indianapolis. The Indianapolis, have y'all seen that one? It's where the battleship that delivered the 2 atomic bombs. They delivered the 2 atomic bombs, and they did it in secret.
Isn't that the one that the sharks did away with just about all the crew?
Oh yes, it was a horrible judgment. I mean, God, He judged. I mean,
And since
it
was
stopped the
secret,
war, but the horror of it, and even that captain of the Indianapolis ended up, you know, committing suicide later on. He couldn't handle. I mean, there was thousands of men in the water that were eaten by sharks. Hundreds. You know, they started off with 900 in the waters, and then they ended up with just like 100 and something that survived.
You know when
But if you think about it, they delivered the 2 bombs that destroyed, that killed, you know, hundreds of thousands there in Russia, in Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
cuando fuimos para atrás a New Orleans, it was maybe a year or 2 later, y cuando había pegado Katrina, y huelía the smell of death everywhere. I mean, for real, huelía, you could smell it for miles. You know.
Dead bodies stuck somewhere in the mud. Nobody had found their
Well,
body
see,
yet.
we were the cleaning crew. You
Yeah.
know, estábamos levantando y hallados cuerpos. You know.
Yeah, I remember my Walmart crew that I was working with at that time when that happened, telling how they went over, because I missed that somehow, like a volunteer crew, but they went over and they talked about how you could just look over and see dead people laying everywhere, and it was awful.
But it was like you said, for the evilness that it was their evilness. I mean, I went for a symposium over there, and it's terrible. It's terrible. It's sin, and people don't even think twice about it.
Well, there
People
was back
sleeping
then.
in
no-
the alleys with mattresses, dead drunk.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere you go, they're gonna offer you something to drink, alcoholic. It's like, what is this, you know? And I tried to enjoy it. They said, oh, they make good food here in this little, you know, liquor, offering you liquor and all that. And it's funny because they took us to the of course. Yeah, I mean, they took us to this famous place where they make powdered donuts, French powdered donuts. Yeah, the French Quarter.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
on their way back to the hotel, they took us down. I said, where are we going? Oh, we're going back to the hotel room.
down
Well, we're
Bourbon
going
Street.
down Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
I did not feel right at all. And my boss and the big head honchos were there, and they stopped somewhere. You want some drink? No, I don't want. Oh, you want some? Oh, fine, give me a Diet Coke. You know, is that all you can drink? Well, yeah. And there was a gay bar on one side, and started
Hustlers on the
stripping.
other one.
Strippers come out. And, oh God, what is this? Well, you know, I got maybe a quarter through that, and I told my boss, hey, where's the hotel? Oh, it's just straight ahead down there. You see it? Oh, okay. Hey, I'm gonna go. Okay. Yeah, but you ain't gonna hang around. We're gonna do something. I go, look, dude, you do what you want. So I'm gonna go to the hotel. I tell you what, I got to the hotel. I got sick, and I threw up. I said, God, I forgive me. I didn't know this was gonna happen, but. And then the next time they said they're taking us out, where are we going? And this one was to an actual nice restaurant, and of course the company paid for us a nice good steak dinner and all that. But it was a bad place. And this was after
After the
Katrina. I mean, and I can imagine how bad it was before.
Mhm.
You know, it's like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah. You go to, now here, I've never been there. I heard you go to, and from friends, that you go to Las Vegas. I mean, there's flyers everywhere. They're offering you $6 for everything.
San Francisco.
And of course, we know what happened in San Francisco with the Great Quake. You know, I mean, God slows it down. He don't destroy us altogether like He did with the flood, but He'll let some occurrence happen to say, hey, wake up, you know, slow down. And San Francisco, before the great earthquake, I remember, they were getting wild.
They're getting there again.
Oh, and yeah,
you have to do is see, I used to like to watch the St. Patrick's Day Parade,
Mhm.
not
All
anymore.
right. Bunch of guys walking around, hardly
And
anything
you know, the
on.
sad thing is, when you see the children dressed like that,
Yes, and they don't know any different because that's the way they're being programmed. And their children, that's why we gotta raise our children to serve God, plant seeds in them, because if we don't, they will be judged. That's why we had to teach them, plant the seed. Mija, don't forget God.
just a couple of years ago, in fact, there was a little boy, couldn't have been more than 10. He was dressed like a gay
Mhm.
person, and he was twerking and everything in the middle of the, you know, a lot of people got really upset by seeing that, because, I mean, he's, what, 10? How can he know what he's doing? And yet, you know, the parents allowed it, and everybody was egging him on. So, I mean, he got even, it was worse than a twerk.
Mhm.
All right, I'm thinking, man, that's a child,
And
he's a big
God's-
bait for someone.
God sees that, he says, I didn't create you to do that. You know, he wants us to have a good life. He wants us to work and get finances and have a good life, you know. But if we are out there sinning, that's why it says it's hard for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. It doesn't say it can't, but it's hard because that money answer, and in Ecclesiastes, there even Solomon stated that money answereth all things, and if people forget God, these things will happen. Now, this present government that we have in place in the United States, because we've been brainwashed for so long, unless we've kept our mind on the things of God, you know, they can brainwash you. It's only going to give us a reprieve of 5 years. I'm a false prophet. I'll step down. I don't want. I'll do the right thing before God. But, I mean, hopefully we can get 5 years out of it. But with him dropping that bomb, so long as there's Christians in the United States. Now, if you're off over there in Korea or living in Japan or living in Europe and France and all those different places, well, they start bombing there, you know, you're an American citizen, you may not be protected. But I know the United States will be protected to some degree. You know, if not, we'd have a lot of, I mean, we're starting to have, you know, these, what are they called, terrorists coming out of the woodworks. And born here in the United States.
That's right.
Because they've forgotten God.
In fact, they're keeping an eye on a group in the West Texas area that they say that that's actually an ISIS training camp for American-born Muslims.
Yes, and some of our ISIS attackers here in the United States were born here. And we don't have to worry about bringing anybody in. There's, you know, we're in a bad shape. And I wouldn't worry about the bomb too much. We still have time. We're not going to have a world war, but, you know, unless, you know, we stand up for righteousness. That's the important thing. We need to stand up for righteousness. And does it bother anyone that this current president doesn't drink, doesn't smoke?
You know that Pence came under
Doesn't
attack
do drugs.
because he says that he refuses to go and have any kind of a dinner with a female alone without his wife being present. And a lot of the liberals attacked him for that. The man has morals. He's right. Why is he going to go to dinner, even if it's a state dinner, with a female and not have his wife with him?
And you know, they got after Christ because he sat with sinners. They got mad at John the Baptist because he wouldn't drink.
See, well, that's the saddest thing. They got after him for that. But Billy Graham, and I heard him say this.
Well, Billy Graham has backed up this presidency.
Yeah, but I mean, he made it because he never would go into a motel. They
Well,
said,
yeah, that
anybody-
was their standard. Their
that
standard,
anybody
and it's a
watched
good
his
standard.
wife, you know.
When
So
Billy
he-
Graham established his Christian organization, he did establish a standard of holiness.
Yeah.
he says, you know,
Better let it
we're not
ride.
gonna do this, and this. Well, he's, you know, his era has came and gone. His dispensation has came and gone. But, yeah, he had a standard. But I would just, you know, put that, you notice this president doesn't do those things that the Bible tells us. You know, drunkards do not enter into the kingdom of heaven. That's how you want to encourage family members or ourselves not to drink, because you won't enter into the kingdom of heaven. Or doing drugs is the same thing when you encourage them, you know, don't do it. I tell my kids, they're way off in Arkansas, I said, you know, you can't do those things, it's bad. I'm not going to stop them, I'm not going to slap it out of their hands, they're adults. They're being judged for their own selves now. But they know, I already taught them. And, but, you know, this president doesn't do those things, and it's like, wow, you know, a president that ain't promoting drink. You know, I like to watch TV shows, but I'm starting to feel bad now, because I was watching this one show, and they always have a beer in their hand. I go, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, and I appreciate God allowing me to have a conscience and not get desensitized. I like to watch some sci-fi, and then sci-fi, they're all drinking. Next thing I know, there's a lesbian. I go, what in the world? You know, and those things are wrong in the sight of God. And so, I will tell you this much, prophetically speaking, we don't have to worry too much. You'll still have money, you'll still make money, you still won't lose a job. While this current, you know, leadership and all, but, you know, if you want to be against them, go ahead. If you want to be for them, that's fine, it's up to you. But, you know, men have been always evil, and God puts governments in place to keep peace. That's why it has that image there of Nebuchadnezzar and Medes and Persia and Alexander and his 4 generals, and then you have pagan Rome, and then you have papal Rome. And when you get down to the feet, that's what we are. That's when you have the mixture of Protestantism, which is the clay, and mixing with the papal Rome, and trying to mix. Because see, here's an example in Israel right now. Why don't they have the Mount Zion, where the temple was at? Why do the Muslims have a temple there dedicated to Muhammad? It's theirs, it's the Jews, but for the sake of peace, they let them have it. And why does God allow the worship falsely of Him there? Because they're using Him, but it's a false way to worship Him. He did not ordain that. But yet He allowed, and why are they allowing it? The Jews let them have it for the sake of peace. But God is not there. It's desolate. When Christ died and the veil was rent, the Spirit of God left that place so they can do whatever they want there. That's how come you have suicide bombers and all that there. It doesn't matter. God's not there anymore. Even though His name is being called out. And they're calling Him Jehovah by the Jews and Allah by the Muslims. Muslims say they're worshiping the God of Abraham. The Jews are worshiping the God of Abraham. One calls Him Jehovah. One calls Him Allah. It's the same God. But how you worship God is important. How you worship Him. Remember, the first murder, why was it caused? It was very good. It was a religious disagreement. See, because God would accept Abel's sacrifice, his religious way. He accepted it. But He would not accept Cain's religious order. So, because God accepted Abel's, Cain killed him. It was a religious murder. Now Cain was wrong to do it. He was wrong to make a sacrifice. He was, God wanted blood. But, Cain was trying to give him the seeds of the field. God didn't want that burnt. But he knew that, through the teachings of Adam, that God was going to require a blood sacrifice. And that's why when Abel was taking care of the animals, he sacrificed them unto God. And also, the first sacrifice was done by the Lord Jesus, because he had to kill animals to give the coverings, the clothing of the beasts, to cover up Adam and Eve. That he made the first sacrifice. It required a life to cover a life. And so, the religious wars have been going on. Even today it's a religious war. The guy in Korea thinks himself a god. And they worship him as a god. What's that? Religious judgment. And if we forget God in this nation, if this church forgets God and don't teach it right, the right way, out of the Bible, the way we're supposed to live. Now, if you're sinning, please keep coming. But I'm not going to hold back and tell you, this is okay to do. I'm not going to throw rocks at you. There's a difference, Brother Bates. There is a difference on how to tell someone about sin. We have to do it like Jesus. Jesus broke the bread and fed the 5,000. So when we're talking against sin, we have to teach it and preach it in a way not to throw stones, but show them a better way. Like Aquila and Priscilla, when they talked to Apollos, there in Acts. He was preaching pretty good, but there was a more perfect way. And so after Apollos was finished preaching, Aquila and Priscilla, hey, come here, let's sit down, let's talk. You're teaching this, and the Bible says this, this, this. He says, you know what? There is a better way. There is, and he went and he got baptized in the name of Jesus, and then he received the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And Apollos was one of the apostles in the New Testament. Not by Christ, but by man.
And a lot of the times, though, as ministers, you get up there and you preach on sin and what have you. I mean, you're not calling anyone out, but man, that stone gets you. And it's not just the ministers telling you, it's God telling you, hey, you're doing it wrong, you gotta change it.
And so when Grande gets up and said, "Porque mira, Grande," I said, "Grande, if you're not doing nothing, don't worry about it." And I don't really think I was getting after anybody. I was just laying out what the Word of God says.
Yeah, you figure that by the time
He
you
says,
become
"Well,
an adult,
how can I be? I don't know how you're living." Well, I do know some of the things you're doing are wrong, and I've told him to him, to his face. Don't be walking around with a beer in a paper bag. And I have talked to him, stop begging, stop asking money for 50 cents. You got 1,200 coming from the government, plus your insurance and your food stamps and help with rent and your electric bill. Why are you asking people, you got 50 cents, you got $1, you got $1? You got money, stop it. You got to change it. And I'm trying to help him change his way of thought, his actions, the way he lives, and the way of Christ. That's what I'm trying to teach him. But I don't know why he says, "¿Por qué me está regañando?" I'm not getting after you, Grande.
If you're guilty.
Well, obviously, yes.
was you see, when I was walking with a Diet Coke can, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't breathe right, and thought I was going to pass out,
You
and I
were
was
walking back and
staggering
forth.
like that. They thought I was a drunk.
Yeah, because
You
you're
know?
staggering. But it's because you lacked oxygen or whatever.
Yeah,
I remember one
but
time.
they could judge you like that,
Yes. But once they seen you and you showed them, hey, you see a
Yeah.
paper bag, it's a Diet Coke.
Hey,
So they knew right away, okay, your daughter's over there.
but at least I knew they were doing their job, They say, hey, there's a drunk
Nowadays,
coming.
brother, le echan whisky a la soya y se van andando.
No, pues,
Ya conozco los trabajadores.
yeah, bro. They approached me and told me to stay away. This is a school zone. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't be intoxicated.
Yeah, right.
Public
And I was glad they were doing their job.
Yeah.
I wasn't intoxicated or nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know.
Because, like he said, sometimes they pour whiskey in their Coke cans.
Yeah.
Mis trabajadores ya conocía a la gente.
I remember one Sunday I was preaching at Brother Ojeda's, and there's a sister, and I don't remember what I was preaching on, but it wasn't toys anymore, and she stood up and said, well, you must have been talking to me because it hit me right on my heart, and I said, no, I wasn't having you in my mind at all when I was preaching. But anyway, she went on to say that I had picked her out, singled her out, and I hadn't. But I guess she just felt guilty, you know.
Well, we're being read. We're books being read. Somos libros siendo leídos. Ahí afuera, afuera, afuera. People are seeing what we do, how we act, going through the hard times we're going through. How are we really Christians going through those hard times?
Let me, you know, when we were little, me and my brother used to go out there and pick onions, right? And for years we do that until we grew up, right? Then I went to school and learned a trade. And this lady, she said, her son-in-law hired me to go put a door on her house. And she said, years later now, she said, weren't you that little kid that used to pick onions? How are you going to put a door if you don't know nothing about doors? You know? Years later,
Because she only knew what she had read before, and that was that you were just an onion picker.
yeah.
She didn't know you as someone who has had education.
Yeah,
in
grew up and
construction.
got a skill, right?
Yeah, you developed a skill. And all that.
Yeah, they just, you know.
Well, that you are read by your actions. I know that in Arkansas, I had to have like 3 or 4 jobs to make what I had now to take care of my kids.
Yeah.
And I remember this old lady, I did 1 yard, and everybody seen how the flowers bloomed, and they were just green thumbing. And then all her neighbors wanted me to do their yards too. So I said, sure, why not? You know, make some extra money. I had to, couldn't afford to live off what they're paying me there in Arkansas. It was a terrible pay. And I took care of this one old lady's yard. And then when she ended up in the hospital in the emergency room, well, guess what? They called me to go and draw her blood gas. And she seen me with my scrubs and my, you know, lab coats. What are you doing? Because I had her wrist and the blood on it. I said, I'm going to draw your blood. But you're my gardener. I go, man, I do that for fun. This is my real profession. I'm a jack of all trades and master of one. You know, carpentry, plumbing, whatever people want.
Yeah.
I do that for fun. This is my profession. You know, I went to school for it. But she never knew me outside of, you know, mowing her lawn, weed eating, and, you know, picking up the debris and cutting trees for her, whatever. But once she seen me in a different light, she seen I was more than what I am, you know. So, you know, people will know you by your actions and what you do. And that's why we have to be a good example. And so long as we're doing that, you know, God ain't gonna, you know, bring sudden destruction. And, you know, the bombing in the United States, the first bombing in the United States, who was it by? An American. Timothy LaVey, whatever his name was, there in Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, he thought he'd change the government. We had it not too long ago, a white guy going into a black church to try and start a race war.
Oh, see.
Killing them. It ain't time yet.
Well, it's been going on for years. It's just,
Yeah.
they didn't publicize it as much as they do now. You know?
And now they pick sides real bad.
Right.
You know? I really, see, we're not dumb. We know. And if you listen to what they say, and listen to everything, not just by what one person says, but we have to be just in our judgment. God requires us to use righteous scales. We cannot have, you know, unbalanced scales. When we judge something, it has to be right. And we use unjust because we don't like the person, we're not in agreement with them, or their personality clash. No, God wants us to judge it righteously. So, you know, I really don't like to listen to the news much anymore. There's not too much good saying about almost anything. It's gotten bad. Unless there's a shooting, a killing, or some type of political scandal, that's all they know.
So how many people you got in the United States?
Yeah.
147 million?
More,
When
well,
you-
it might
when you-
be, it might be closer to
150?
600 million or thereabout,
In the United States?
yes.
600.
Around there, or it might be more now. So if you could
That's
just sell
including
one
children,
item
right?
at $1 to each one of them, we'd be 600, just saying. But of course-
I was just saying, when you're in top, if you're the one heading the country, you got all these people behind you,
Yeah.
and that's why they set up Congress and, you know, the Senate and
There's
all
the
that.
three.
You can't just decide what you want to decide.
No, we have to realize he's gonna decide for his area. There's the judicial, there's the executive, and then there's the.
There's a lot of people.
There's three different, what are those?
Judicial, legislative.
Legislative, which is, and then his is the, whatever his is, I forget what it's called. Can't remember, judicial, legislative, and then the executive, which is, you know, since they've seen in history where Rome, that they don't allow military men to be leadership. That's one of the wisest things our countries did. It has to be a civilian that is leader over our military, because if a general, you know, becomes president, he has to renounce his position in the military. Because if not, it can become a dictator. And that's why we have it in the executive, which is what he is. And he's really over the army. He really is. He can try and make changes in the laws, but really, it has to go through those two, legislative and then the executive. Judicial deals with our laws. But changing things and, you know, the way we spend our money is between those two. Judicial just makes sure we keep with the Constitution. And he's supposed to be there. Obama was there. I did not like Obama. He didn't do nothing for us. He didn't do nothing for me.
But too many there.
I didn't make any raises while he was president. And as a person of,
Well, the thing is, see, the thing is,
they were invading our churches.
the thing is, que they didn't let him do nothing.
No?
No,
he
the
didn't.
Republicans ran the whole thing. You know that.
Well, actually,
He
Republicans
would
were.
try to do something good, they knock him out.
No, every law he passed, even the law for the bathroom for lesbians and homosexuals to pick your drink, he passed it because Democrats were the majority. This time, they're the minority. They were the majority. That's why he passed a lot of things.
People don't
He passed
understand
a lot
though,
of things.
that a lot of the things that the Republicans put a stop to, it's because hidden within it, there were other things that would have really been bad for the US. And they would try and push it.
He did a lot of things. The things he did were moral things. He started, well, with Bush, it was, you know, be of the homosexual persuasion in the military. With him, it went straight through. And then he went as far as to allowing you people to get married. Then he went as far as putting, you know, you can use whatever bathroom you want in the high schools. Would you like your daughters going to the same bathroom with a man? I don't think so.
I don't know.
But he did that because he was president.
Yeah.
And he did have backing of the Democrats.
But
And he passed-
that was for the state. The state that was
Well,
in charge of that. Like the state of
was-
Texas.
Well,
You know,
every
different
state, it
states.
was a federal law.
You see how North Carolina,
But we rejected it. We did reject
North Carolina rejected it, all that.
it. And California probably accepted it.
Yeah, but North
And all those-
Carolina,
But
They
if
didn't have
he'd
none
have
of that
stayed
there.
president for more years, well, actually it was. I remember one of our sisters, she went to a symposium on, she was in HR, and there was a symposium on the rights of the transgender person, human resources.
That last year that I taught, and it's well over 10 years, I had a 6th grade class I had to teach health.
Mm.
Well, you know, you can't go around it. There's the chapter on sexuality. Well, the only thing I taught was, hey, the basics, you know, the consequence of this and this is this, you know, and just the very basics. I didn't really want to go into it, but I went in one day to get some copies that I had, and I see the 8th grade teacher. You know, it was talking about transgenderism, the whole sex change. I mean, my eyes just went wide as saucers when I'm thinking, you're teaching this to our kids?
But I can't say Obama didn't do nothing. He did a lot. I can research you and give you a list of things that he did pass. And he got a lot of things his way. This president, whether he does or doesn't, you know, we have to say he did.
Every one of them is gonna be different. I mean,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
we've been through so many presidents,
Oh my
and every
goodness.
one was different.
The
Yeah.
first president I remember was, and I was a kid, it was Nixon.
Nixon.
And then after Nixon was Ford. And after Ford was Jimmy Carter, right? The
Jimmy
peanut
Carter.
man. And after that, then we went into the Bush, and then from that Bush, we went to
Reagan.
Reagan, and then from Reagan to Bush, and then from Bush to Clinton, then from Clinton to Obama, and then now we're, you know, with Trump.
Trump.
And I, you know, since I was a child, I was always taught anybody can be president, but, you know, well, that's what we're taught as children. Do you remember being taught that as a child?
Sí,
In
but
school?
what I'm saying is,
Anybody can be president.
Diosito, he picks the president.
Yeah.
He-
That's the whole thing about that. That's why when Obama was president, I tried my best to keep my mouth shut. I didn't agree with a lot of things he was doing. I did prepare the church. Y'all were here when Obama was president. Those of you who were here, remember I told y'all, be ready, you know, because they may close us down. Because I'm not gonna marry the same sex. I cannot. And it was getting there.
That's why I was talking to you about those restaurants,
Yeah.
right? Where they had the white in the front, the black in the,
Uh-huh.
in the,
And
In
that
the
was
back,
government
and
supported. Government supported.
they didn't allow Mexicans or dogs in the
Yeah.
restaurant. You believe that?
What?
And Mexicans are dogs. Oh, all right. She
No,
didn't
they-
know
for
government.
real.
She don't care. She likes the dogs.
The dogs. But they,
Yeah.
you know,
When the segregation was here, my mom would tell me that there was stores and stuff, restaurants that they couldn't go into, and that's here in the valley.
And it was supported by the
And-
government.
and-
And in 19, this guy was talking 1982. They're like, what?
yeah, I'm talking about.
But the government enforcing the laws wasn't enforcing the laws there. I guarantee you that sheriff would have backed up, you know, the civil governments would support whatever's happening, so
You
they
know,
couldn't put that up.
at the time, the
See,
sheriff,
1982, he shouldn't have been there.
the sheriff was a black man there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I'm surprised he allowed it.
it was there.
Or unless he was gonna be hanged if he didn't.
It was there.
Wow.
The thing is, it said no Mexicans or dogs allowed.
Mhm.
And they had black restaurant right here and a white restaurant over here. I
That
said,
was
"Well, where are we
1982.
gonna eat? You know?
And it just amazes me, you told me the year that happened, I just,
Yeah.
I was living in North Texas, we didn't have to deal with anything like that. There was, you know, some prejudice, but not to the degree of that matter, because the ACLU would come out and fight it and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what they were for, but, you know, but there are some areas, like up in Arkansas, back in 95, I won't go to the mountains.
Yeah, over there by
Because
Hot
they walk
Springs
around with
and
them tall, pointed white
Yeah.
caps, they would kill you, they'd hang you.
Oh,
But, you know, when you're dealing with areas like that, and the government should have changed it, the civil government, but they had the backing. The people
Yeah,
back-
well, that's why I say the
That's
state,
it, yeah,
the state's the one that,
yeah. But a federal law can be changed, and that's how come we were fighting it in Texas about, you know, going to the bathroom that you feel whatever you want.
Mhm.
And it was a law. It was a law, and Texas fought it and changed it. And a lot of transgenders aren't happy with that. But they're still only 3% of the population.
Mhm.
3%.
It's just like when they discriminate against women. There's 7 women to 1 man in the
In the
United States.
States of America,
Yeah,
yes.
that's a lot of women for 1 man.
And now they're holding a lot of positions. They're holding a lot of positions
Yeah.
in business and everything, because men are dead. I mean, if you go to these, CEOs, there's a lot of women now.
Yeah, that's
In my profession that I used to be in restorative therapy, the majority of them were women. Were women. And nursing
Changes.
is women. The doctors, not
women.
very many, but women are starting to come up. But there wasn't, for a long time, there's very few women doctors. But, that's all changing because we are being outnumbered. Also because, adding to that, men stopped smoking because it was causing problems, health problems. Well, guess what? The women took it up because they were taking all the hard jobs of being executives and all that, and all that stress. They started smoking, so now it reverses. The roles have changed now that men are dropping the cigarette. When women are picking it up, and along with their high stress jobs, they end up getting cancer and lung cancer and all those problems. that
Yeah,
come
you see
along
all
with
those commercials, those beer commercials and stuff, and they got a woman there drinking beer, smoking.
that. Yeah, well, also the GPA or the most ads are geared to women because they're the ones that do the majority of the shopping. How many times do you walk around in the store?
Have you ever seen an angry woman?
Well,
You gotta watch out.
yeah. Why are you saying that, brother? I've seen many angry women. But yeah, there's these 4 winds are going to judge us, whether it be military, economy, religion, and also your civil governments. And Korea is dealing with the civil government because he considers he's a dictator. You don't believe him the way, he's going to kill you. And so those are different examples. I will tell you prophetically, we're going to be okay for a while. As long as there's a true, righteous Christians around. There's a lot of Christians that are not Christians. There are more non-Christians that are Christians than there are Christians that are truly Christians. And that's why we teach here, we strong against sin. We want you to change your life, but we're not going to beat you. We're not going to run you off. I don't know nobody to be run off if they still pick up a cigarette. They still drink a little bit. Because we want you to change because you love God.
Well, you see what the cigarette did to me, right?
Yeah. When I got into respiratory, it's one of the things I was smoking, and after about 6 months, and 9 out of 10 of my patients were smokers, I said, hey, this may not be the thing to do. So right away I quit. And, I was a Christian.
When I first went into the army, the guy said there, well, you need to shave every day.
Oh, military. Oh, yeah.
And there's 3 cigarettes in a little box in the rations.
Mhm.
You gotta smoke them to be a man. And
Yes.
there you go. That's how I got started smoking.
And fathers really, they wanted their boys to go to the army, but then they didn't want their boys to go to the army.
Yeah,
Their mamas did because they did not come back the same son.
yeah.
You would be changed in the army.
The only thing is that drinking, took a drink and it tasted like piss,
Probably.
and I threw it out, and I don't drink.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's bad for you. And I know that back then they did give you a drink, but it was a lower concentration of alcohol because you had to be out shooting people.
Yeah.
But, those are, you may not like this president, but just as long as we're right with God is more than important than anything.
Mhm.
I didn't like the last president, but I made sure I was right with God.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's the
saying.
important thing.
It's not that I don't like the president. It's he's got to let the people decide.
Yeah.
You're not in charge of your own. I mean, we know he's a billionaire or whatever.
Yeah.
This is the country.
Well, I don't think he can do it again until he gets permission, but even all the news people are saying, as an executive, because he's the executive or he's over the military, he can, as long as he don't declare war, if he declares war, then yeah, he'll have to go through the legislative, which is Congress, to declare war. Right now, he's not declaring war. He just bombed them because they were using, no. The other bombing was poison gas. This one was to stop ISIS.
Yeah.
To stop ISIS. But he did bomb those other ones because of poison gas, and I think that was righteous. And
You know,
and other than those Russia and Iran, the whole world applauded him because they needed to be put a stop to that.
Yeah, I think they run into an expiration date where they got all those bombs. I remember that because I used to keep track of it. Yeah, you gotta destroy them.
But they haven't been able to root out the if you study it out, they have not been able to root out the Muslims or Islamics out of those mountains.
Oh no.
They haven't. Russia hasn't. The United States hasn't. The UN hasn't. But this bomb sure did do some shaking there. And that's the only way you can, you have to remove the mountain. Now, if he keeps doing it, I don't see that in the near future. But, it is, we still have time.
Yeah, the one I worry about is a Korean guy.
Well,
He's kind of crazy.
I think with them sending those people, he's already crazy. He's crazy. We know that. He's already threatened to use bombs, to use the atomic bomb. He's not playing around. And if you think about it, the government may know something more than we do, and that's why they've sent it out there.
Pero no la tira, hermano, ¿sabe por qué no la tira? Porque no sabe que va a llegar allá, que cree que puede explotar ahí donde están ahí.
Well, he may do that, since he's got the ships out there. He may just have to throw the bomb over there in the middle of the United States, military. He might do it. I know, he might do it. But it don't mean he still won't do it for Japan
Yeah.
or South Korea.
Yeah.
And China, who supported him, has backed off of him. Because like you said, he's crazy. But he might drop the atomic bomb on the carrier fleet that's out there. Because he's crazy. But I know if he does that, it'll be like 9/11. We'll go in there, we'll clean up. We will. Because when it was the North and South Korea fighting each other, it was a state attack back. So, he is crazy. He might do it, but if he does, that is what's going to happen. The United States will invade North Korea and get rid of it. Just like
Yeah, the thing is, they're trying to get him with
Noriega, not Noriega, the other guy, what's his name? Gaddafi.
Gaddafi.
All those different dictators. The United States can remove them. You were in the military, you've seen it. They want to get rid of a leader, they can.
Yeah.
And if he does do something as dumb as attack the United States, he will be removed.
They say
At
he's
this point in time-
got millions of people in jail.
His own people.
Right.
His own people. And once they, there will be a change, I'm sure. Hopefully, I think time will change everything, just like Russia went down because they had the wind of economy that came on. And they had to break up. They couldn't afford to sustain those multi-millions of people under the Soviet Union. The communist, dogma or way of life. They couldn't support everybody. They said, you know what, I can't support everybody, let's just call it quits and everybody go your own way.
In that country, there's people starving and stuff, but there's pheasants everywhere, where you can kill them and eat them. But they consider that a god or something. They
Well,
don't
you see
eat
what
it.
happens in India, they're starving. In Africa, they're starving. And even in Africa, where there's a lot of starvation, that food is taken over there and they'll reject it because it's against their religion to eat corn. Maybe against their religion to eat oats.
Yeah.
it might be against their religion to eat beef, and that's why, you know, you see all the cattle and all the skinny kids running around because they won't eat it. And, you know, if they allowed enough, I mean, the United States of America, our agriculture, we could feed the whole world. If they let us, we could go and take that farmland there in Africa and feed the whole world. But man is in charge, right there. Man is in charge right now, and it's gonna come to an end. And if you live or I live another 20 years, we will see a big change.
That'd be great.
You ain't gonna like it. You won't like it. The United States will cease to exist like it
No, I'm saying to live.
Oh, to live, yeah. But the United States will eventually become a third world country.
It's already starting. You can see it
Yes.
in they're already starting to, I don't know how many millions are being paid to this company to start manufacturing products made out of grasshopper. Because,
Food products, the feed.
yes, they're starting with the grasshopper flour. And, yeah, I know. But they're wanting us to move away from the cattle and stuff and start eating crickets, grasshoppers, all that stuff.
Well, it is, I'm sure it is a movement.
More
But
protein.
right now, we are the breadbasket of the world. Right now we are. Now the reason we may be lacking, you know, bread or whatever, is because the farmers can't get no money for it. Just like when back in the 70s, and they had the loss of the price of wheat and corn and all that, and plummeted. And the farmers, they're taking out these loans, and all of a sudden, all their money they're making isn't paying their bills. And they were protesting, you know, the price of grain and the price of corn and all that. And they even,
Lloran, hermano, pero
that was back in the 70s.
no, ahorita también todavía lloran que
Oh,
que
but
están
they're
comprando
making-
y tanto eso.
Por favor.
Pero yo miro, ¿verdad? Donde han estado trabajando,
It's all
dicen
about
que no hacen dinero. Dicen,
Oh,
le
yes.
dije yo a la gente, no es que no hagan dinero, es que se la están llevando para comer, hombre. No,
I guarantee you,
Toneladas.
today they're making money. They are in
Oh, yeah, they're
agriculture.
making money.
They're making thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
It's
But
always
like
been
this-
that
this,
way.
Millions of dollars. But
The-
back in
the-
the 70s, what I was saying was back in the 70s, the price dropped for corn and grain and all these.
Well,
And the government locked it up. So the farmers were protesting. And they would go and buy all the bread in the store and grocery store, H-E-B, whatever, and they'd run over with tractors. I don't know if you remember that. That was a little bit after the embargo, oil embargo, and
Mhm.
we're paying, I don't know how much for gas, and gas stations ran out of gas. But, you know, they were protesting, and some people, you know, they'd ask them on the streets, well, sure, what do you think about these farmers protesting about, you know, all this price of corn going down and wheat and all that? And the person would say, I don't care. I get my groceries from the store.
Yeah.
I get my bread from the store. Well, hello, how do they make bread? It takes the farmers. So at this point in time, if you want to eat grasshopper, I think there's plenty of bread around. I don't know why they.
The reason they're doing it though is because they're saying that it takes a lot less land and it's more eco-friendly. But it's really about the almighty dollar, because if they don't have to feed all the cattle and all that,
There's a market out there.
yeah.
But also the grasshoppers can destroy a wheat
Not to
field.
destroy your intestines too.
They can destroy a lot of things.
Well, think about it, look what happened with the killer bees. They were just supposed to be an experiment. They escaped. Now they've decimated some of the European colonies. You know, we need the European not the killer bees, but the European honeybee.
Well, we do have them, but they're multiplying. The African bee is definitely.
Yeah, and they don't do the job that the European bees do.
Cuando yo entré a Alice a trabajar, me pusieron en la romana ahí vender grano y maíz. Y vendíamos el costal a $5 el 100. Y para cuando salí en 3 años, estábamos vendiendo el costal de maíz a $11 el 100. Y compraban 100,000 libras a $11 el 100. Y yo lo estaba vendiendo, envolviendo y nomás estaba recogiendo dinero así, ¿no? Mira. Llevaba unos belices como este grande, Sina, lleno de puro dinero. Acá para Sebastián le entregaba el beliz y el bolillo agarraba el beliz y se lo daba a su esposa para que fuera a comprar ropa.
Yeah, yeah.
Sí.
But like I said, the farmers, except for back in the 70s, then you have regulation that made the price go up. Once again, we're talking about the winds here of economy. The government finally backed off and they were able to get a decent price. They wouldn't allow them to sell it to China or to Europe, you know, or any other nations outside of our country, except here in the United States, because we don't have to pay as much for our food as we want to. We should be paying a lot less.
Yeah.
Our gasoline should only be maybe $1 a gallon or less. It shouldn't be that much. But the taxes are so high on it.
Porque se lo está comprando a Venezuela y Venezuela ahí lo tiene 15 cents a gallon.
And because their government's giving it away pretty much. Like here, how much is the price? $2.15 now?
Yeah.
2.19. You know how much the taxes are on that?
Pues más que lo-
About $1.19.
Yeah.
So we're actually paying for the gas we want is really $1. $1.19 of that gallon of gas goes to the government.
If you see the map from right now where the fighting is going on, there's two oil pipelines that are going into Europe. So a lot of this is not really so much about ISIS, a lot of it has to do with the oil too.
Well, the oil, if it was the oil, we would have had our resolve already, but it is a religious fight. The ISIS do want to destroy the whole world. They want the whole world to serve Allah. They want to, and God is using them. Let me see if that's that. Let me see what's here. Seal the altar. Talk about the first woe and then the second woe. Let's see. I'm sorry, but my part of my Bible where I have all my notes is set on. I was supposed to be transferring it to the new Bible, and I forgot it all. That's sweet in my belly. Prophesy, peoples. That's chapter 11. See what he shall say. Okay. I believe it's chapter 11. And we touched a little bit on that, and I lost the last part of the teaching on that. And it's talking about as the Word of God is restored there in Revelations 11:11 says, and after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood on their feet again. That means the Word of God was once again translated. So the humans could understand God, the Word of God. And great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying, come up hither. And they ascended up into heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And that's just Christianity being reborn again after the Dark Ages. And the same hour there was a great earthquake, and a 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain men 7,000, and the remnants, and in Greek it's thousands, not thousands. And the remnant were affrighted, and they gave glory to God in heaven. The second woe was past. That's the First World War and the Second World War. The second woe is past, and behold, a third woe comes quickly. And the seventh angel sounded, and there was a great voice in heaven, and the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. So we have three woes here, which is the world wars, and of course this is talking about when Christ comes back and rules and reigns for 1,000 years. And then it says the 24 elders which sat before God in their seats fell upon their face and worshiped God, saying, We give thee thanks, O Lord God. And this is in the millennium, beginning of the millennium. The 24 are the Jewish converted Christians in the time of Christ until now, because some Jews will be converted, but they are the 24. That's the Old Testament that God saved. It says, Mighty wast thou come, and taken to thee great power has reigned, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and thou should give reward unto thy servant, the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and should destroy them which destroy the earth. See, so now, to God it is important how we treat this earth. And like I said, he wasn't going to destroy this earth anymore. And the temple of God was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple an ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and great earthquakes and hail. So we have the third woe to come yet, which is the third world war. But the first woe has passed, and the second woe has passed. But we are waiting for the third woe, which will happen here in the future, and is part of when Jesus comes back in the clouds with his with his saints that are dressed in white and riding white horses. And the reason, it says that he shall rule with a rod of iron. You know, most of the governments are ruling with a rod of iron right now. Well, what is a gun made out of? What is a gun made out of? Iron. What is the tanks made out of? And iron. And the missiles and that big bomb made out of iron. They rule with a rod of iron. It's no longer just a slingshot. And so, and that's why he says he's going to use a sickle for the harvest as well. But right now, I just ran out of battery. That's getting low. The ruling will be with a rod of iron. And if you don't have a rod of iron, guess what? You're going to get taken out. You see the Zetas and the Carteles, how do they rule? With the rod of iron. But if they don't have it, guess what? They lose, So, right now, we have the third woe to come. And the first woe and second woe have passed. But we're coming to the third woe, and it says, back it up there. Because here, chapter 11 was talking about how the Word of God was being restored. And there is change coming. We may not like it. But we can learn to live. We can live. In whatever government there is, we can live. And as for me, if they decide they're going to change the way we can't teach and preach out of the Bible, then I will be preaching and teaching. And it'll be like that early church. The church was established in homes at the beginning. But because of persecution. Can you imagine being killed because you're a Christian? I'm not talking about what's happening over there, but anybody who's a Christian was going to be killed. A lot of people would rather not. They'd rather take the mark. They'd rather say, "Oh no, I'm a Zeus or Apollos." Or even when the Utah was being established, if you were in an LDS, and that's the first thing they would ask you, if you ever worked in Utah, they ask you, are you an LDS? Latter-day Saint? Are you a Mormon? If you're a Mormon, you know, you can get a job, but if you're not a Mormon, you're gonna have a whole lot more harder time. You know, because a whole state believes in a false doctrine. So we will see that, and we're seeing it in our time. But right now, the United States of America is a safe haven for Christianity. God established it. You notice that it says in Jerusalem, the New Jerusalem, if you read the middle part, it's USA. Jerusalem, USA is in the middle, in the New Jerusalem, and we are in type the New Jerusalem. We're not the New Jerusalem, but we're in essence the beginning of it, the remnant, to be part of that which is to come. And it's when Christ rules and reigns for 1,000 years. And but let's judge. Let's judge righteously and judge the way God would do it. If I see someone doing something right, I'm not going to say they're wrong. They're doing it right. But if they're doing something wrong, I can't agree with them, but they're doing something wrong. And I won't agree with somebody who's doing something wrong. But we have to do that march part. Remember, you do have to judge. There's two phases in judgment. One is to determine guilt. The second is the sentencing. That's up to God. That's up to God. He judges the second part. We just have to make sure if this is wrong, don't get involved. You know, because, you know, God still judges. How did Aaron die? How did Aaron die? Y'all remember? Remember Aaron and his sons will be priests of God? God killed him. Did y'all know that? Because he did 3 things wrong. In Exodus 32, when Moses was up on the mountain making the tent, Becerro, right? They were tired of waiting on Moses. They said, oh, our God is this calf. Make it. Aaron had the skill. He made a golden calf.
Yeah, Moses.
And they said, this is the God that took us out of Egypt. No, it wasn't. That was strike 1. What was strike 2? When him and Miriam spoke against Moses, they were bringing dissension, and that was in chapter 12 of Numbers. They were bringing dissension in the court, making the ministry of God look bad, because he was married to an Ethiopian woman. Well, what could he do? He was out in the middle of nowhere. The ministry of God, you know, I mean, nothing happened to Aaron then either. But what happened to Miriam? Remember Miriam? She got leprosy.
No.
God gave her leprosy. Why didn't he give it to Aaron? Well, Aaron obviously was the ministry. Well, God was giving him a chance. It was grace. And then the third thing was when God told Moses the second time to speak to the rock so he can give him water. He's trying to show him the power of God and the ministry of God. He didn't have to beat it. But Moses was so mad at the people for their murmuring that he beat the rock the second time. And God said, why did you smite it? And you know why? It counted against Aaron because Aaron was the ministry. He should have said, hold on, Moses. God told us to speak to the rock so these people can see. I'm paraphrasing, but y'all read it. The power of God. And he didn't. And that's how come, you know, it was a representation of Christ. Before, you know, it had to be beaten out of you. The second, you just had to ask forgiveness. So the water or life would come to us. And he did it wrong. Because it was going to be a type and shadow of the Christ. And so, after that happened, there in Numbers 20, you'll see how God pulled Aaron aside. Strike 3.
Porque no obedecía la palabra.
He didn't know, obedeció lo que Dios le dijo que no. La primera vez golpeó la piedra para sacarle agua. La segunda vez Dios le dijo nomás háblale a la piedra iba a salir agua. Pero Moisés estaba tan enojado con el pueblo que estaban atrás de él para darles agua que se enojó y les golpeó la piedra. Y Dios dijo, no te dije que hicieras eso, te dije que le hablaras. Pero Aarón era el ministerio, liderazgo. He was the priest of priests. Aaron was the priest of priests. And he should have told Moses, hold on, you need to speak to that rock. That's what God told us. Aaron was there. Strike 3. And so God had to take him out. He told Aaron, get your house in order, for today you die. Turned in his raiment, his priestly raiment, and then he died. So, you know, there's consequences in this whole world for everything. And we think we can get away with it, we're not. So God is always watching. Yeah, I believe, who was it? And I'll finish with this. It was Saul. Saul had 3 strikes against him. Y'all know that? Strike 1 was is when he went and he was told that he needed to kill the king and destroy all his properties there in Samuel 13. 1 Samuel 13. And it says, I'll read verse 9 and try to make it short because it's hard to tell. And Saul said, bring hither a burnt offering to me and a peace offering. And he offered it burnt offering. And it came to pass that as soon as he had, let me pull it up here for y'all to read it. There in 1 Samuel 13. First Samuel 13 and 9. He says, and bring to me peace offerings. And it came to pass as soon as he made an offering and burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. And Samuel said, what hast thou done? And Saul said, because I saw the people were scattered from me, that thou comest not within the days appointed, that the Philistines gather themselves together at Mizpah. Therefore I said I, the Philistines will come down upon Gilgal, and I have not made supplication to the Lord. I forced myself therefore to offer a burnt offering. Remember, Saul was the king. He was not the priest. That was delegated position of sacrifice was by the sons of Aaron, the Levites. Saul was not one. He should not have been making the burnt sacrifices. And Samuel said unto Saul, thou hast foolishly done, thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee from now would be that the Lord has established the kingdom upon Israel forever. But now thy kingdom shall not continue, because what he did, God was changing his mind about it. God can change his mind about us. And the Lord had sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord commanded him, commanded him to be captain over his people, because he had not kept that which the Lord commanded. And Samuel rose and gat him up to Gilgal of Benjamin, and Saul numbered the people. Once again, God did not want the kings to number the people. That were present with him were 600 men. So he shouldn't have done that. So that was strike 1. And then you'll see the strike 2 is in chapter 14. And we'll start with 24. And I'm leading up to something here. And the men of Israel were distressed in that day, for Saul had adjured the people, saying, cursed be the man that eateth any food until evening, that I may be avenged on my enemies, so that none of the people taste any food. He had the whole people of God under a fast, so that he would have victory over the enemy, the Philistines. And he says, if anybody ate him, he could kill him. And it says, and all they they of the land came to the wood, and there was honey upon the ground. And when the people were come into the wood, behold, honey dropped, but no man put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. See, and Jonathan was what? The son of Saul. Heard not when his father charged the people with the oath. Wherefore he put forth his end of the rod that was in his hand, and dipped it in the honeycomb, and put his hand in his mouth, and his eyes were enlightened. They were hungry, but they were supposed to be on a national fast with an oath of death. And if anybody ate, according to Saul, because they were fasting to the Lord to have victory over the enemies, it was gonna, that man or that person or that people that ate were going to be accursed or be killed. So he was in the light. And that was strike two. And it says, and then answered one of the people and said, thy father straitly charged. See, they could have told him, don't put that in your mouth. Your father has told us we are to fast. And 28 says, straitly charged the people with an oath, saying, cursed be the man that eateth food this day. And the people were faint. And Jonathan, then said Jonathan, my father hath troubled the land. See, I pray you, how mine eyes being enlightened, because I tasted a little bit of honey. And he's saying, because I was hungry, I ate, and I look, I have strength now. And he actually did go out and defeat some of the enemy because he had food. But Saul had made a pact with God. He said, the people are going to fast, and we're going to defeat the enemy, and they're going to leave us alone. And God was going to honor that. And then strike three was Amalek. Let's see, that's in 15. And you're going to see a change. You're going to see a change in Saul. That was not right. Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee king over the people of Israel, and voice hearkened. And thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, and he laid wait for him in way when he came to Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, this was the commandment of God, and destroy utterly all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man, woman, infant, suckling, oxen, sheep, camel, and ass. That was the commandment of God. He was judging Amalek. You think he can get away with it? Eventually God's going to bring judgment. Saul gathered the people together, numbered them with 10 men, 200,000 footmen, and 10,000 men of Judah. Saul came to the city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley. And Saul said unto the Canaanites, go, depart, get you down now among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For ye showed kindness to all the children of Israel. And when they came up to Egypt, so the Canaanites departed from among the Amalekites. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is, over against Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of Amalekites, alive. What was it that God told him to do? Kill everybody, kill everything, burn everything. It was God's judgment. And God uses man for judgment. Get this straight. He will use man for judgment.
And that was his third strike right there, right?
That was his third strike. Destroy all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best sheep and oxen, fattening lambs, and all that was good, that would not utterly destroy them. See, they were supposed to destroy all that. But everything that was vile and refuse, they destroyed it utterly. Obviously, it was if it wasn't a good sheep and bad sickly sheep, yeah, they killed it, they burned it, but they were saving all the good stuff, and it was for themselves. I'm sorry, it wasn't for God. And destroyed it utterly. Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, Yet repent me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he has turned back. See, God knew his heart had changed. A change came upon Saul. For he turned back from following me, and hath not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. And when Samuel rose early to meet Saul, and came to Carmel, and behold, he set him up in a place, and he'd gone about and passed on and gone down to Gilgal. Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said unto him, Blessed be thou of the Lord, I have performed the commandment of the Lord. Okay? He's keeping God personal. But God already said there's been a change in his heart. And Samuel said, What meaneth thee then this bleeping of the sheep in my ears and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? Samuel said, They have brought them from Amalek for the people. He tried to blame the people. The people spared the best of the sheep and the oxen to what? Sacrifice to the Lord, thy God. And the rest we have utterly destroyed. See, the people decided, we can keep the best for God. But no, they're keeping it for themselves. And Samuel said unto Saul, Stay, and I will tell thee what the Lord hath said to me this night. He said unto me, Say on. Samuel said, Thou wast little in thine own sight, and wast thou not made the head of the tribe of Israel? The Lord anointed thee king of Israel. The Lord sent thee on a journey and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners of Amalek and fight against them till they be consumed. Wherefore thou didst not obey the voice of the Lord, and didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord. And Saul said unto Samuel, Yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone away the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag, king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalek. But the people took of the spoil. Okay, now there's a difference. Now it's not for God. Now it's a spoil. Y'all know what a spoil is? When you go to war and you conquer the people, you take all the good that you want to, because you have just now conquered it. And that's why they took a spoil of sheep, oxen, and the sheep of things which should be utterly destroyed to sacrifice to the Lord and thy God. And notice something here. Saul has changed. Look how and his words changed. Here in 21. To sacrifice unto the Lord my God, thy God. This is Saul speaking, the king of the Jews in Gilgal. See, God said his heart was changed. And now, from saying my Lord, our Lord, he is now saying thy God. You see. And it says there, and in Spanish, es para ofrecer sacrificios a Jehová que mi Dios, no, tu Dios. ¿Ves? Strike 3. 3 cambios. Repasó y cambió su corazón como dijo Jehová. Jehová tu Dios en Gilgal. So, he changed, and God judged him. And then, it says 22, Samuel said, Hath the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice, as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice. And this is one of the keys that help me understand what Jesus said. Jesus said, you must fulfill the commandments. I heard it my whole life. We're no longer being obedient to the commandments. We're fulfilling the commandments. Well, how do you fulfill the commandments? You have to obey them. To obey the commandments, you made sacrifices. You killed your sheep, your oxen. But to fulfill the commandment is you obey the word of the Lord. If it says, thou shalt not kill, you don't kill. That is being obedient. You don't have to make a sacrifice then. It says, behold, I obey it better than sacrifice. And then he says, and Samuel hath the Lord a great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice, as in obeying the voice of the Lord. Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than to hearken to the fat of lambs. For rebellion is a sin of witchcraft and stubbornness, iniquity and adultery, because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, and he hath also rejected thee from being king. Strike 3. And you'll see a lot of what Saul starts saying again was, and you'll see this in verse 30. when Saul was talking about God, he says, then he said, I have sinned, yet honor me now. I pray thee before the elders of my people and before Israel, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord my God, thy God, thy God. And it,
Denying God.
there you go.
In both
So
God
a lot of
says-
people go to church, but they are saying thy God, they're not saying my God. And we need to make sure, you know, we do it right. And anything you read after that concerning, you know, Saul, it was the end. There, we cannot turn against God.
Then he's also committed David when David played his harp.
No, he got better. Remember, when David played his harp, it healed him. It would make the demon go away.
Pero luego se enojaba él mismo.
Well, the demon prophesied to David, saying that, you know, Saul was going to throw the lance at him. The demon spoke to him, or the demon. And he told him. And sure enough, Saul woke up and tried to kill him with his lance. But because the demon prophesied, told him, this is what the king is going to do. You know, and he did. He did. And so, well, there's a lot of things happening, but really, watch how you spend your money. I can tell you that, to keep the judgment of economy on you. Don't go too much in debt. Pay your bills. If you need money, get a job. If you ain't working, you want to try and find a way to pay your bills. Don't take out a loan if you can't afford it. If you can, go ahead. If you can afford to make payments, go for it. But if you can't afford to pay it, don't take it. Learn to live within your means and prepare in advance. You know, always have a little extra. I mean, how many of us are prepared for a hurricane? Do you have some money in the bank?
No, got a lot of food.
And you may have food and water. You got to have the backup supplies. That was the next thing, but you also should have money in the bank. You need some money in the bank, at least. It's recommended at least $3,000. You know, because if you can't work because your place got destroyed, you got to have money to pay your bills. So, you know, it always recommended to have finances. Set aside, if you can't, do your best to set aside money, you know, aside. Spend some money on yourself too, nothing wrong with that. Pay your bills, but, you know, judgment will eventually come in the financial realm as well. But we do hear that God will reveal it to the ministry. That's what it says in His Word. God will do nothing until He reveals it to the prophets, to His ministers, before He does anything. That's why. And so far, God has been pretty good with me, showing me what's going to happen. And if not, well, I'm just a false prophet, and I'll step down. But I know I've dedicated my life to God when it comes to the Word of truth and what He's doing. I'm laying my eternal soul. Some people may not understand that, but it's a grievous thing. It's a heavy thing to be the mouthpiece of God. It's not all glory. It's not, oh, look at me, I can preach. No, I'm being judged with a great judgment. Of course, I want to be judged into eternal life. But if I get it wrong, I'm not going to. It says, be not many masters, for greater is the judgment upon them. You can't be, you know, you want to represent the Word of God, do it right. A lot of ministers and pastors and evangelists, and apostles and prophets don't know, but they just read what's been put in front of them. But it is important how we say what we do and what we think of God. We don't want to become like Saul, because then we'll say, thy God. He's my God. That's it.